All new today.
I need Dr. Phil.
It's been 7 years since your surgery. How do you feel?
Completely helpless. Everything in my body is shaking and clenching.
Are mom and dad
Are your parents a trigger?
Yes.
causing more anxiety?
I feel like he resents me when it starts happening.
You became concerned when he accidentally over-medicated her.
Yes.
I think this situation has gotten to a dysfunctional state. Esther's parents say their beautiful daughter is nothing but a miracle. 6 years ago, doctors removed a tumor the size of a lemon from her brain. Esther had to relearn to do everything from walking and talking to taking a shower. It took 3 months, but she made a full recovery. If that's the case, why did she send me this video?
I want you to take a breath. I want you to take a deep breath in. You're going to live. Let's tell your brain you're going to live, sweetheart. Deep breath in. Deep breath in.
I need Dr. Phil.
Okay.
I need Dr. Phil. I need Dr. Phil.
Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath in.
What brought this 38-year-old woman to the point where her panic attacks became so debilitating it prevented her from living a normal life?
In 2014, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. The surgery was successful. After 3 months of healing, my life was pretty much back to normal. I was having fun. I was getting interested into dating. I put myself through nursing classes, and I was a successful esthetician. And then January 2021, my whole life changed. I was having extreme pain in my brain and also down my back. Then my eyes dilated. All the lights were really bright and they stretched out. It got so bad that on January 9th, when I was home, I got up out of bed and I collapsed on the counter. When I went to the hospital, I was there for 7 hours. I started to cry and I was freaking out. The doctors couldn't do anything for me, so they sent me home with Ativan to help me with my panic attacks. After I completed my Ativan, I experienced shakiness, extreme fear, even higher anxiety. I didn't know it, but my body was going through severe withdrawals. This is when my panic attacks became unbearable. And I'd start hyperventilating. And I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't be consoled. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't leave the house. It got so bad that I just couldn't eat anymore. The pain was excruciating. And I'm 5'5", and I went all the way to 80. My panic attacks were so life-changing. I had to ask my dad to move in with me.
Esther's father, Dave, says because of Esther's medical issues, he was forced to become her full-time caretaker, moving into her tiny studio apartment. But after a year of living together, Esther says, well, she's sick of her dad treating her like a child.
Because I needed 24-hour care. You need to quit your job. You need to quit your job. You need to quit your job. My dad had to quit his job and take early retirement.
Esther's panic attacks can last sometimes all day long.
My dad, when I was in a corner balled up or screaming, he would say, Esther, stop it. Esther, 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 stop. What are you doing? About 6 months ago, when I had the extreme panic attack, my dad wasn't really helping me enough, so I just grabbed the clothes like a person, and I was just screaming and crying because there was so much pain. My dad, the only thing he really knows to do is give me more medication.
We first started with the Ativan. As the panic attacks and the anxiety attacks were increasing, we gave her more medicine. It was actually becoming addicting to her.
One time I had a really bad panic attack, and he thought that it was self-induced. I said, no, I really need help. Please help me. Please breathe with me. And he said, I can't do this anymore. And he walked out. He said, you better get it right. And then he left. Instead of my dad realizing that they're real medical panic attacks, he thinks I can just turn it on and turn it off. Even though I rely on my dad to help me, he makes my stress worse.
Esther says every day she fears getting sick with COVID, so out of an abundance of caution and for her peace of mind, I decided to meet with Esther and her parents outside in a park. Thank y'all for being outside in the COVID world. Clearly, you've had some really significant events, and you found a brain tumor.
Yes.
And that's been removed. But I want to talk about your life before that. Tell me about your existence, your world before the brain tumor.
My world was amazing. I was very active in sports and school, and I was an esthetician, very successful, and I really didn't have any fears at all.
And what was your sport?
I played volleyball, basketball, and softball.
And it's been how long since your surgery?
Close to 7 years.
Okay. How do you think she's doing these days?
I think she's doing really good compared to what it's been like this last year that she's had to go through. She's had a lot of physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain. She had lost a lot of weight.
Right.
And she's gained a lot of that back, and she's a lot more healthier.
What would be the biggest negative right now?
It would be the panic attacks, but also my vision.
Okay, and describe your vision problem.
So my eyes are dilated. They're really large, and when I look at words against a black screen, like white words, I see double.
I've seen your panic attacks. They really seem severe.
You're gonna live.
Now, sometimes you will throw yourself on the floor and just scream. Is that out of frustration?
No, something is happening to me that I can't control.
What?
I don't fully know what it is. Everything in my body is shaking and clenching, and it's not something that I'm actually doing. It's involuntary.
How would you describe her in her most pronounced anxiety attack, panic attack?
When she is really in bad shape on the anxiety or panic attack, she's literally in the fetal position. She grabs her coat and she's crying on the floor. Now it's gotten better where she's able to cope a little faster. And as we go through it, she can figure out what's going on, and it's easier to get out of it, where at the beginning, it was really, really hard.
You seem very impaired, like you couldn't get up and walk out into the street or the sidewalk if you had to. You're kind of in a fetal position, physically and emotionally. True? At that point, how impaired do you feel?
Completely helpless.
Okay. Are there triggers for that, or do they come just kind of out of the blue?
COVID's a big trigger, and I really appreciate this so much. And anything that has to do with health, I don't really want to know, because I have such a hard time with, I have a fear of dying.
You say you have some issues with parasomnia, night terrors.
Yes.
Describe that to me.
It's the worst of the worst. I could have night terrors of being burnt alive and chained up. And when I was in the hospital, I wasn't always treated the best, and I have nightmares of those times and escalating to the full extent and being locked in a room, screaming and not able to get out, and then eventually dying.
And you have a vivid recall of it.
Oh, yeah. It shapes my whole morning.
Night terrors generally happen to children.
Okay.
Not adults, and one of the things that characterizes night terrors is that people don't typically have any recall whatsoever of what they experienced during the night terror.
Okay.
So who told you this was a night terror?
One of my friends just said that sounds like a night terror, so that's what I labeled it, because I didn't know how to label it.
And this isn't a test on parasomnia disorders.
Okay.
The reason I'm asking is I'm trying to find out where you're getting information, because misinformation can really contribute to what you believe and therefore what you experience. Set labels aside, anxiety and panic attacks can be very debilitating, very paralyzing, very disruptive to your life, and I take that very, very seriously. Now, at this point, you're very reliant on your parents. Are your parents a trigger?
Coming up.
Dave is not always making the best decisions for Esther. Esther could wake up shaking and going into a panic attack, and he'll say, oh, here we go again. He's treating her like a child.
Monday. It's a battle over beauty trends.
I make my living as a model.
People said you were glamorizing being morbidly obese.
We cannot promote obesity.
She's absolutely every trend that is out there. You are not original in any way.
You're defensive in the sense of like, fat is beautiful, and then you're just kind of like, I'm full of plastic. I feel like I am not supposed to be here.
That's Monday. Then on Tuesday,
Alex was poisoned, and this is murder.
social media platforms selling drugs to kids.
A drug dealer on social media offered him just one pill. The pill killed him.
That's Tuesday.
Turning now to the pandemic, another day of very high numbers from LA County. 102 new deaths, the most, in fact.
When COVID hit, it turned my whole life upside down. When I started to see a lot of COVID deaths, it made my fears worse. It spiraled me into life-changing panic attacks. It got to a point where my panic disorder made me a prisoner in my own home.
Are your parents a trigger?
Yes.
Your dad, you live with her, right?
Yes.
And y'all don't live in a rambling home where you can kind of get off and have your own space. You're in a small one-bedroom apartment.
Studio. There's no doors.
There is no bedroom.
No.
Okay, so you're in a kind of box.
Yes.
Although you love and care about each other, it can get really small.
Yes.
When you're together a lot. And you provide for her behaviorally, financially, you kind of do everything for her, right?
Yes, I do. It's getting a little better. When we first started, I was driving to her doctors, doing all the cooking, cleaning. She couldn't even get out of the apartment because she's just terrified of going out of the apartment. So we've been able to get her out of the apartment, go to the grocery store. She's even gone a few times by herself, and we're kind of just testing that and see how the anxiety and panic is doing on that kind of thing.
Right.
But otherwise, yeah, we're together 24/7, and her mom comes down once a month, and I'll stay there for a few days while mom's down here, and then we just reverse it back.
Now, your mom, Mary, is here as well, and she says that she is concerned that your dad, Dave, is, despite having the best intentions, doesn't always make the best choices, might be over-medicating you at times. In one instance, accidentally really over-medicated you.
There's hope. I want you to take a deep breath, all right? We need to take a deep breath until we can...
Life has been a nightmare for Esther. Esther's father and I have been struggling to take care of her. Dave has more power because he's there, but he's not always making the best decisions for Esther.
It's killing me. It's killing my brain.
Esther could wake up shaking and going into a panic attack, saying, I'm dying. I can't do this. And he'll say, oh, here we go again. He's treating her like a child, like she's having a little tantrum. Whatever's going on with Esther, give her a pill. One time, Esther was having nightmares, night terrors, and Dave and I were talking on the phone, and he was going to give her more of one of her medications.
All Dad wanted to do was just give me more of the Klonopin.
And the next thing I know, he had given her 3 times the amount that was prescribed to her.
He threatened me if I don't take this medicine that he's going to take me back to the emergency room. And he knows my biggest fear is going back there.
Esther called me beside herself. She was shaking. She could barely talk. And she told me that her father wasn't going to put up with another night of lost sleep.
So I took it because what else am I about to do?
Even though Esther survived that night, she could have died.
Mary, good to meet you.
Good to meet you, too.
Thanks for being here. You became concerned when he accidentally over-medicated her.
Yes.
We're just trying to go off of what the doctor was recommending as needed. And so when she was having the panic attacks, wanted to give her a little bit more of the medicine to be able to help her cope with what she was going through. Again, I'm not in the medical field, and I had no clue what we were doing. And down the road, I mean, there's going to be times where you just kind of run out of patience. You just don't know what to do. And I said, that's the frustrating part.
Well, you just said something interesting. You said, I don't have any medical training, and I didn't know anything about it, but I just, on my own, decided to triple her anti-anxiety agents?
Not triple.
Well, you went from 15 to 45.
Well, that was, I think we did that just one time, I think it was. She was really out of control, so we thought, well, maybe we'll just go up a little bit, see if that will help a little bit. I was just at a loss, you know, how to help my daughter, how to do anything just to make her so that she is able to.
Yeah, I don't question your intention. Trust me, either of you. I think you're extremely well-intentioned, but I would encourage you not to manipulate medications without consulting your physician. Because some of these, like these benzodiazepines, can be very powerful and in combination with other medications that she's taken can be potentiated to the point that it can be very dangerous. So you don't want to do that. And you say you do lose patience because it's kind of relentless, right?
Well, I'm with her 24/7, and so we try different things to try to help her with the panic attacks or the anxiety.
Mary, what's your take on all this? I know y'all are divorced, and you're not fast friends, right?
Is your smile adding years to your face? The secret?
Recently, my dad just divorced his second wife, and I believe that has made him more codependent of me. He doesn't really want to be alone himself and is afraid to let me go.
Mary, what's your take on all this?
Esther, she did really well after her brain surgery, but she was adapting to a new normal. She told me that she began to have like a tickling in her brain and a sharp shooting pain, and of course the tightness in the throat. The light was hurting her. Sound, different layers of sound were like megaphones in her ears. Touch, anything that physical that was happening to her was like magnified.
What do they tell you about all of this?
Honestly, that they haven't given me enough information to tell me what is truly going on with me. And there hasn't been any full answers to why everything has affected me so much.
Okay, it's been 7 years since your surgery.
Yes.
Okay, it's time for you to start managing you.
Yes.
It's time for you guys to take a step back here. This is an intelligent young woman, a competent young woman, and I think you can do a lot more than you're doing. I know y'all are divorced, and you're not fast friends, right? But you're working together on this, and I commend you greatly for that. But if it wasn't for this, you guys wouldn't be hanging out a lot together, right?
Right.
So you seem to me to be really dedicated, good-hearted parents, and you're very blessed to have these people that love and care about you. And paradoxically, it's one of the most dysfunctional situations that I've ever seen. It's just morphed into a situation that is not helping you, given all of the sacrifice, effort, and energy. I'm not saying that I think you two should disappear from her life at all, but I do think you're over-involved at this point in terms of what she needs.
My dad has tracked my phone for years, but now it's even worse. If my phone is staying in one place too long, he'll send me a text. If my battery runs a little bit low, he'll send me a text. If I don't answer the text, he will call me. He's been like this since I was a little girl. I wasn't even allowed to get the mail. My dad has given me a curfew. He believes that I should be indoors before dark. He doesn't allow me to really go out, see any friends. It's impossible to date right now. My dad is in every corner of the room because there are no doors. You can hear every conversation, and he doesn't approve.
It's just a matter of seeing that you're safe.
As a 38-year-old woman turning 39, I feel like this is just way too much control. Like going to the mall, you talk to mom, not to me, but to mom, like, oh, there's guys there at the mall waiting, you know, to hit on me. So what? I'm at the mall though, you know, and you track me. My dad makes me feel very protected and loved, but then also trapped at the same time.
I do want y'all to understand, when I say this is dysfunctional, I mean it's behaviorally dysfunctional. I don't mean that either of y'all are dysfunctional or that you are, even with the anxiety situation. I mean, the way that this has defined itself now, naturally, your child having brain surgery is a big deal. I'm a father, it's a big deal. And so you become protective, right? But it can get to the point where it's dysfunctional because it can mentally, emotionally, physically, behaviorally impede her progress and her self-reliance. I'm not going to recommend that just all of a sudden you throw her out there by herself. Would y'all like to know what I think about this situation? What if, Dad, you're not there and she has a terrible panic attack? What if she goes on a date and has a terrible panic attack? All of you need to play the what if game. You play the what if game, but you need to play it all the way to the end.
Esther has a cyst that has needed to be removed, and she goes into a panic attack when I try to talk to her about it. Try to set up a doctor's appointment. She can't handle it. It's probably cancerous, and she just starts spiraling.
Deep breath, sweetheart.
No one's going to want to help me.
I am afraid that if Esther doesn't get a handle on her panic attacks, that it could potentially kill her.
Would y'all like to know what I think about this situation?
Yes.
We need, I believe, to start phasing into more dependence. And by that, I mean, make a plan. And maybe at first she spends a night and a day of the week completely alone, then 2, then 3, then goes on her own completely. And, you know, she has a panic button she can hit. If she needs to call you, she can call you. Because you know what will happen if you are alone and you have a panic attack so bad that you hyperventilate and pass out? You'll lay there for a little while and then you'll wake up. And then you'll get up and do whatever you were doing whenever it started. I'm not trying to trivialize it, but I'm saying even if you hyperventilate to the point that you lose consciousness, you'll start breathing again and you'll wake back up. The world's not going to come to an end. I'm not saying it will be pleasant. I'm not saying you will like it, but you know how to do it.
At that moment, I forget everything.
All of you need to play the what-if game. You play the what-if game, but you need to play it all the way to the end. What if, Dad, you're not there and she has a terrible panic attack? What if she goes on a date and has a terrible panic attack? What if she goes to the mall and has a terrible panic attack? Okay, let's play that out to the end. What if that happens? Well, what's the answer?
I'm not going to die.
No, you're not. Panic attacks are acute fight or flight reactions. Your heart rate and your respirations will go up and you'll think some irrational thoughts for a period of time. But we can't stay in that state of arousal for very long. That's why panic attacks don't last a long time, right?
Well, mine did for a while. Like
no, they didn't. How long did they last? Did
4
they last?
hours.
But that's hours. That's not days.
Yes.
It passes. And if you embrace some coping skills, you can begin to truncate those to less and less. I don't care if I'm dealing with a paraplegic or a quadriplegic or someone that has severe mental emotional impairments. My number one rule is you must require that person to do everything they can do on any given day. So if I'm working with a paraplegic and it takes them 10 minutes to get 10 feet across the room to turn a light switch on, then you require them to do that because they need to be self-sufficient. This is a young woman that has a competitive spirit. She has a skill set. She has a career, things that she can do to make her way in this world. But necessity is not there. And necessity is the mother of invention. You want her to be self-sufficient and be ready to do this.
Yeah.
You need to start being an active manager of your circumstance and situation.
But I understand what you're saying for the most part.
But yet you say, yeah, it's been 7 years and I don't really have a clear answer. These doctors work for you. They owe you clear answers, and you ask till you get them. They work for you. You're the boss.
That's been our frustration.
Well, that doesn't have to be a frustration. You're entitled to answers. I want to add someone to our conversation here. You're being too passive about this, Esther. You say, they kept prescribing them. They didn't tell me it was addictive. They took me to detox.
There was a time where I couldn't get my thoughts together.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil. It's a battle over beauty trends.
People said you were glamorizing being obese.
We cannot promote obesity.
You are not original in any way.
That's Monday.
I want to add someone to our conversation here, if we can. Can we get Dr. Charles Sophie to come in? Dr. Sophie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Welcome to the park.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
It is, isn't it? Meet Dr. Charles Sophie. I have immense respect for Dr. Sophie. He's board certified in psychiatry, child psychiatry, and adult psychiatry. What do you think about this situation?
Well, I mean, I agree with everything you said. The other thing is you treat both of them like they're your children, like he's your older son.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh.
They're not your children. She is. So he's not incapable, but you keep him incapable, and she's learning how to be helpless.
I do push him.
I know, but you treat him like a child. You talk to him like he's a child.
I do admit that I've, out of frustration, not all the time do I talk to him that way, but I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're teaching her learned helplessness, which is she doesn't even want to believe in herself, and you don't mean to be doing this, or even that you're aware of it, but you're teaching her how to be helpless. She's not helpless. She's very capable.
I back off and have her do things more,
yes,
I think, than her father.
But a lot of guilt is created for her that because she loves you and feels indebted to you, she doesn't really want to push back. That makes somebody angry, and the more the anger builds, the more your brain makes anxiety to hold it back, which is a lot of the panic you're feeling because you can't scream. You're too polite to scream. You're too polite to push back. So you've got to learn to use your skills. Like Dr. Phil said, when you're in the doctor's office, demand an answer. If you need somebody to go with you to show you how to do it, I'll do it. Okay. But you need to do it. They don't need to do it. Okay. So you're very capable. You need tools and be able to manage yourself, be able to see panic before it hits you. And then we got to look at these medicines because they could be causing more of the problem than you're aware of.
Yes.
I believe that.
I believe that too.
And you're being too passive about this, Esther. I went through and circled some of the things that were quotes. You say, they kept prescribing them. They didn't tell me it was addictive. They took me to detox. It was awful. They.
Who's they? Mm-hmm. Get your own answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a time where I couldn't get my thoughts together. And there was a time when I needed my parents to do all that stuff. I'm not there anymore. And you're right, when I'm in the doctor's office, they feel white coat, they're in charge. They know best. But you're right, I do need to ask.
And you need to plan before you go. And I think it's extremely important that you get engaged with some cognitive behavioral therapy. And that has to do with your internal dialogue. And you need to hear what you're saying to yourself, challenge what you're saying to yourself, and determine whether what you're saying is rational or irrational. And for it to be rational, you need to ask yourself, is what I'm saying to myself true? You are going to be so much more comfortable when you trust yourself.
Yes.
And y'all need to get out of the way and let her accomplish those things, which is good news for y'all.
And great news for me.
You have the tools. You're capable. Go. Fly.
And we'll do this a step at a time. And we will set you up with a cognitive behavioral therapist to get you started.
Thank you so much.
And we're in COVID right now, and you're concerned about that. I will do it through Doctor on Demand for you, so you don't have to worry about getting infected. Doctor on Demand is a company that we actually founded. And the good news is y'all get to take a step back. And it won't be a success-only journey, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sophie, she's on 2
benzos.
She's on 2 benzos at this point. She's on an SSRI. She's on Remeron. We need to really audit these things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you're on enough medicine that you should not be awake at night, much less having any kind of movement or dreams or terrors or anything. So it's not dosed properly, probably.
Okay.
So we'll fix it.
Good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, fair enough.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank Dr. Charles Sophie, Esther, and her family for sharing their story today. Esther isn't alone with her struggles of anxiety and depression. Coming up, NFL reporter Jay Glazer opens up about his own battles with depression and anxiety. He calls it living in the gray. That's next. You all know Jay Glazer. He is the fast-talking, upbeat reporter on Fox NFL Sunday. He is also an MMA coach, actor, and an overall good guy, helping military veterans struggling with mental health issues through the foundation he co-founded, MVP, merging vets and players, where he matches the vets with athletes. But behind his energetic public persona, Jay's been very candid and says he's been struggling with depression and anxiety for years. He calls it the gray. He wrote a book about it called Unbreakable, How I Turned My Depression and Anxiety into Motivation, and You Can Too. Now, I've read this, but I actually read it in one sitting.
Really?
Yeah, this is a page turner.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this book, Jay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And why did you decide to write this book, and why now instead of 5 years ago or 5 years from now?
You know what? My level of depression, anxiety, it's clinical. It's every day of my life. I wake up with it. I wake up every morning, don't really know who I'm going to get. I feel like the sky is falling and the world is against me when I know that's not how the universe works. Like, logically, it doesn't make any sense, but that's how I feel. And too many years, I just suffered in silence. Like, I just started talking to my best friend's Michael Strahan. 30 years. I never told him until 2 months ago. There was a night that I just couldn't go out to dinner. Like, the beast just got me, just got out of the box. And he says, why have you never told me this? And I said, I don't make up the rules of this thing, man. With you, I was ashamed. I don't know. And I want to take the shame away from everybody. It's not fair to us. So how do you describe depression? Man, it is, and it's depression and anxiety. So, and I got ADD, so I got to do everything, you know, full force. Well, that's why I scattered the words kind of around the page here. I appreciate that. Man, it's hard. It's painful. It's really painful. And it's like, I feel like my soul is just, it's gray, and I feel like these chains are, it's a visceral response. It's a physical thing for me. So when my depression kicks in or my anxiety kicks in, I feel it behind my ribcage. The left side of my gut, we talk a lot about a gut punch, right? You feel it in your gut. And then my joints just ache like I've been in a 50-round fight. But the voices in my head, the things they say to each other, just, it's not fair. Like, I'm getting choked up. Well, you said sometimes you wake up in the morning crying, just waking up crying. Yeah, or in the middle of the night, and just feeling like, like the universe is just crashing down upon me. And I've done these great things. And here's the thing with depression for me. When you have this level, and look, I also did this not just for people like me. We just went through a pandemic. And social media is a lie, right? And what we think about our own lives, and we compare ourselves to everybody else's filtered fraction of a second, it's just not real. And I wanted to kind of give a voice to every single one of us going through something, right? And I'm still a work in progress. But, man, when these kind of voices tell me that I'm not worthy of being loved, so I grew up just not feeling like I'm worthy of being loved. Like, I don't know how to love myself from the inside out. And that's what it does to you. But instead of me sitting in bed every day, instead of me letting this beast beat me, I used it to motivate me. I've done all these great things that you just talked about because I needed to try and get some love from the outside in. In 2005, I had my first anxiety and panic attack. I was in an empty Raiders stadium. And remember, this is 2005, so we weren't really talking about mental health and anxiety attacks and panic attacks and back then like we are now. And all of a sudden, and I want to describe it for everybody out there, your heart starts racing, your hands start shaking, your eyes start going back and forth, you start sweating, hyperventilating, and my walls start caving in. And I feel like I'm having a heart attack. So that's what I thought I was having. And here I am on TV, and then it almost became habitual for me. It was every single time I've gone on television, I call it wrestling with my abuser. And I actually am talking to her like, please just let me go. Leave me alone today. Like, let me just, so as I'm talking on TV, I'm talking to this voice like, man, just give me a break today. Let me just have today. But here we are at the Super Bowl. The first hour and 20. I got no memory of it. And like, here's the biggest day of my career. And I worked so hard. And in order to get to where I have gotten to, I have outworked the world. Like, I had 11 years where I was broker than broke, making $9,700 a year. So I know the broke side and the unbreakable side. And I just outworked the world to get there. And here I am, like the culmination, and it just started suffocating me. And it was interesting. It wasn't until I wrote this book that for the most part they stopped. And I didn't realize it until I sat with Lane Johnson from the Eagles, who had a mental breakdown this year. Right. And I said, give us some advice how you got through it. And he said, I started journaling. And right there, I said, oh my God, I haven't had a panic attack this year. But I didn't realize it. So from 2015, every single time I've been on TV, at least for the first segment, maybe more, until this past year, I've had a panic attack. And I've got to remind myself, it's not real. It's not dangerous. I'm not in danger.
This has been cathartic for you, writing this.
Yeah, it has been. It has been.
And it's made it easier, but you describe yourself as a work in progress. How do you feel right now, being here, doing this interview, being on television?
I feel pretty cool. I'm a Dr. Phil. Are you kidding me? And that's what I want people to understand, too, because people look at me and go, wait, your life's great. Like, it is great. I'm on with Dr. Phil. But between my ears sucks.
Coming up, Jay tells us how to get out of the gray when we come back. Send me an email or text Phil to 88500. That's Phil to 88500. What's coming up on Dr. Phil? Visit our website and subscribe to our newsletter. You'll get weekly updates, life strategies, and exclusive video that you won't find anywhere else. Plus, on drphil.com, you can see sneak previews of upcoming shows. Log on today. Well, the book is Unbreakable. How I Turned My Depression and Anxiety into Motivation, and you can too. The man is Jay Glazer, and he is being as open and honest and candid as he can possibly be about the struggles that he's had, because he wants to inspire you to do the same thing. Now, you describe what you call the gray, and you say there are 3 pillars that you live by. Talk about what they are.
Well, one is having a team. So I wrote this book so I could have a team. Like, a team lift me up. And I'm in the NFL, my Fox NFL Sunday crew, that's a team. I used to fight. I still spar and train. That fight team's one of my teams. My dog is a team. God is a team. The one up there. But now I did this because I need a bigger team. My struggles have actually gotten, I think, deeper and worse. As I've gotten more successful, they've gotten a little bit harder on me, because now I have things to lose. I never had anything to lose before. So I need to expand my team out. So having a team is huge. Again, reaching out for help. The other thing is, pillar 2 is being of service. So I've always had charities that I've started. Even when I was broken and broke, I figured out ways to be of service to people, because that cuts through the gray to see the blue. And there's several ways in the book. But for example, I still go to the store with my son and buy toothbrush, toothpaste, handy wipes, gloves, socks, deodorant, pen pad, and put those together and give out to the homeless. Right? Doesn't cost a lot. And then the other thing that has really been huge for me, especially when I have my panic attacks, the thing that gets me through them the most is laughter. The gray hates laughter, so I make sure we try and laugh.
People that live and fight in the gray, sometimes they have such a dialogue with the demons,
right,
and they don't ever have the dialogue about, why they are worth all the effort.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, this world would not be as good a place without you. And
gonna make me cry now.
And I'm really proud to call you friend, and I'm really proud that you wrote this book. I want to thank Jay Glazer.
Thank you.
And all of my guests today. Jay's book, Unbreakable, How I Turned My Depression and Anxiety into Motivation, and you can too, is available on Amazon and all the bookstores. But he brought a copy for everyone in our audience today. And he also has ebooks for everybody in our virtual audience, so you guys will have copies of it as well. For more information about today's episode, log on to drphil.com, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to my podcast, which you will hear Jay on very soon. Fill in the blanks, where you will hear important conversations that can help you and your family live life to the fullest. And check out Robin's podcast, I've Got a Secret with Robin McGraw. She is celebrating 100 fantastic episodes. Check it out for free.